Testing 1, 2, 3. Okay, I'd like to call this meeting to order, and we'll start with a land acknowledgement.
Thank you, through you, sir. The lands we know today as the Township of Centre Wellington have been home to Indigenous peoples since time memorial. We acknowledge that we're on the treaty lands and traditional territory of the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee. With increasing encroachment by non-Indigenous settlers in the Township of Centre Wellington, the Anishinaabe and the Haudenosaunee could not continue their traditional lifestyle and settled instead in their villages along the Credit River and in the Grand River Valley. These Indigenous nations uphold their treaty rights within our jurisdiction. Today, the Township of Centre Wellington remains home to Indigenous peoples from across Turtle Island. We're grateful to have the opportunity to share and to respect Mother Earth and are committed to building constructive and cooperative relationships with Indigenous nations.
Thank you, Councillor Evoy. Addendums and corrections to the agenda. There's item 3.1 for you to take a look at and contemplate. We'll move down to item number 4, disclosure of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Councillor Wilton.
Thank you, Mayor Waters. I have conflict with agenda item 12.2 due to the fact my spouse is a partner at MHBC Planning and they are providing planning consulting services for this agenda item.
Any other conflicts of interest? Okay, seeing none. We'll move down to closed session that the Council of Township of Centre Wellington convene in closed session in accordance with Section 2392C and F of the Municipal Act 2001 as amended to consider a proposed or pending acquisition or disposition of lands by the municipality and advice that is subject to solicitor-client privilege, including communications necessary for that purpose. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Wilton, seconder on that. Councillor Craddock, any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? So moved. So we'll go into closed session and we should reconvene up here about 6 o'clock. Welcome back. We're reconvening out of closed session, and there are no matters coming out of close at this time. So now we're going to go into, I'm going to call the public meeting to order, and any declaration of pecuniary interest under the Municipal Conflict of Interest Act. Looking at council. Okay, seeing none, the purpose of this meeting is to present and receive public input regarding a proposed zoning bylaw amendment on land within the Centre Wellington Business Park in Fergus. The purpose of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to modify the zoning regulation applying to the Centre Wellington Business Park, North Fergus, including changes to the permitted use and lot regulations. The effect of the proposed zoning bylaw amendment is to implement the recommendation of the Centre Wellington Business Park strategy. Okay, so we are to take notice that if any persons or public body would otherwise have an ability to appeal the decision of the Township of Centre Wellington to the Ontario Land Tribunal, OLT, but the persons of the public body does not make oral submission at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Centre Wellington before the bylaw is passed, the persons or public body is not permitted to appeal the decision. And take notice that if a person or a public body does not make oral submissions at the public meeting or make written submissions to the Township of Centre Wellington before the bylaw is passed, the person or public body may not be added as a party to the hearing of the appeal before the Ontario Land Tribunal, OLT, unless, in the opinion of the tribunal, there's a reasonable grounds to do so. If anyone wishes to be notified of the decision of the Township of Centre Wellington in respect to the proposed zoning bylaw amendment, a written request must be made to the municipal clerk of the Township of Centre Wellington, 1 McDonald Square, Elora, Ontario, and OB 1SO. Okay, clerk, was there any, how is advice on how are the notices given?
Through you, Mayor Waters, notice was provided to prescribed persons and agencies and public bodies on or before December 19th, 2024. A copy was also placed in the Wellington Advertiser on the same date. I can therefore confirm that the requirement for giving notice was completed on December 19th, 2024.
Thank you. So at this point, I'd like to introduce Brett Salmon, Manager, Director of Planning and Development, to present the application.
Thank you, Mayor Waters. Council, I have a slideshow for Lisa to put up. Thank you. All right, thank you. So the land in question, of course, is the Centre Wellington Business Park. You can see it on the map in front of you. The purpose of this zoning amendment is to create a new M2BP business park zone. In 2021, we retained McSweeney Associates to prepare a business park strategy, and that business park strategy recommended certain zoning provisions that before now we haven't gotten to implementing yet, but we're doing it now that the business park is up and running. You can see from the map on the little notch out of, well, it's a big notch. The land that's not included is the land that we have already sold to Hammond Manufacturing. So we couldn't include them in this amendment because we don't own it anymore. We did ask them if they would like to be included, and they said no, so they're not included. If you also notice at the top, kind of left-hand corner of the area to be rezoned, there's an area that's part of the wetland that's been identified through the municipal servicing studies. And so that is being rezoned from M2 to environmental protection. The balance of the changes are related to permitted uses to be added that the business park strategy recommended. So we're adding as permitted uses in that zone, artisan studio, communication and broadcasting, emergency service facility, laboratory, and business or professional office, but not including a medical clinic. And then you can also see there are a number of uses. I'm not going to read every single one of those. Permitted uses that are recommended to be deleted from the zoning. And you can see those are uses such as storage warehouses, building and lumber supply, garden centers. The principle being that those are uses that take up a lot of land but don't have many buildings, therefore don't really provide much in the way of employment. So we created the business park to be of a higher standard than the rest of the industrial areas in Fergus. So for example, we have the community trail, we have the road paved, we have the multi-use path that goes through. So in the business park strategy, these uses were specifically identified to be not included. And so in our sales process that we've adopted, if somebody were to approach us to buy land from the township for one of these uses, we would not recommend that to council. And then the other changes relate to the lot and building regulations. So you can see we're proposing a minimum lot frontage of 20 meters. That's a reduction from the current 30 meters. This one was not recommended specifically in the business park strategy, but staff have identified this as a necessary zoning amendment in order to provide the size of lots that people are asking us that they're interested in. So we're including the reduction in minimum lot frontage. Some of the requests we're getting are for lots that were smaller than had originally been intended when we set the regulations for the business park and laid it out. So we need to reduce that frontage, especially in some of the lots that are in the corners or pie-shaped lots that are in the cul-de-sac, where our zoning bylaw measures the lot frontage basically at the narrowest part of the lot. So in order to fit, for example, a 1 acre lot, which there's demand for, with a minimum of 30 meters frontage, we can't create a lot that small. So that's why we've included the 20 meter frontage. The front yard setback of 7.5 meters is standard. The minimum rear yard is a reduction to 6 meters, but if it abuts a residential zone, it increases to 15. Similarly with the minimum side yard. The minimum exterior side yard is a corner lot, so there's only kind of 2 corner lots in the development. The landscaped area recommendation is that 100% of the front yard, other than the paved areas and parking, have to be landscaped, and then as well as the minimum side yard requirements have to be landscaped. And then our bylaw also requires in industrial zone a buffer strip. So item G there is restating what it's like 1.5 meter landscaping strip that's required. Outdoor storage is permitted but can only be in a rear yard, and outdoor display areas, which would otherwise be allowed in an M2 zone, that's where you would have your goods or outside in a yard for people to view, like a car lot. Outdoor display areas are not permitted at all in the recommended zoning. So that pretty much covers all of the proposed regulations that we're proposing. I can answer questions. I can also state that up until now, we haven't received any comments from anyone in opposition to any of the regulations. So the bylaw and my staff report recommending the bylaw is on the council agenda later this evening for adoption. We do have some pending land sales that are dependent upon these regulations. So.
Questions in 1 minute. There are no delegations. Is there anyone to speak to this application in the audience? Okay, seeing none. So this is your opportunity now, council, to ask questions of staff. So, Councillor Yeboy.
Thank you, through you, sir. Apologies if I'm not clear. To reiterate, we are adjusting the lot sizes and adding one, or can you just clarify exactly how that's turning out in the end?
The way the business park is, because as a municipality, we're not required to go through a severance process. We have lots laid out kind of in general terms, but as each person that makes an offer to buy land, we create the lot to their needs. So there aren't fixed lot sizes. But we had anticipated when we laid out the park that 1.5 acres would be kind of the typical lot size, but we're seeing inquiries for smaller lots. So we're providing a reduced lot frontage in order to meet that requirement.
Thank you through your Mayor Waters. Thank you, Brett. I'm just curious with that last piece about the front displays not being allowed, because I can see sometimes it could be quite advantageous if somebody's building, manufacturing really cool tiny homes that they want to put an example of what they're manufacturing on the front. So I'm just curious if that's going to be like a hard and fast rule, or if that's just, if there's any rationale behind that.
I think the idea is for not to have, or to improve the appearance by not having junk. Certainly we can use a minor variance if we would know, obviously, if somebody had a specific need for that specific type of use where it might be allowed, it could be dealt with through a minor variance. But overall, what we want to discourage having that kind of, unsightly appearance.
Through you, Mayor Waters, if you could just clarify, no healthcare facility could be possible here, is that right?
Well, specifically, we are adding a business and professional office, but not allowing a medical office specifically. So not that a medical facility of no kind, but we would not allow a doctor's office in the business park, for example. And part of the reason for that is, first of all, they should be directed to other locations in town where they are permitted. But secondly, it's the large parking kind of requirement that goes with them. Medical offices are one of the largest generators of parking in our zoning bylaw. It's got quite a heavy parking requirement. So there are plenty of other places in the municipality where a medical office could go, and that it was not seen as something, again, we're trying to encourage employment, right? So it's not something that the business park strategy recommended would go in this business park.
Yeah, for comment, probably more, feedback from doctors is that they're looking for places to operate possibly a medical facility, and there isn't always that opportunity. I know we have a committee and have identified those, but I just think that the possibility of a walk-in clinic, there is parking out there, and I am apprehensive to take that piece off the table. That's just my view.
I guess in response, I would say, like we know, for example, what we've seen, the medical facilities want to be located near the hospital, and this is quite a remote location in the business park for people to get access to it. And those are some of the reasons why it was felt not to be a viable location for medical facilities. But again, it was council can direct that we keep it in, if you like, but it was part of the recommendation not to allow that use. So, and that report did go through. Now it was when it was prepared in 2021, but it did go through the committee structure and was adopted by council after being considered by the Healthy Growth Committee at the time.
Any other comments or questions? Councillor Jefferson.
Thank you, Mayor Waters. Through you. I was just curious, with adding in these features to the zoning, would that allow like the concept of a shared space build out? I was just thinking of like the Catalyst Center in Waterloo, where it's office space, manufacturing space, maker space, all under the one roof. Is this an opportunity for something like that to be pursued?
Those things would already be allowed, and we've tried to market that pretty heavily to people that are looking to encourage them to build a multi-tenant building, because we don't have that. But certainly I think part of the strategy of the type of uses that are recommended to be added is to make it more attractive for that. for sure.
Okay, any other comments, questions for staff? Okay, seeing none, I'd like to thank everyone for attending our public meeting, and the application will be considered later in this meeting. I declare the public meeting adjourned. Okay, we're going to move down to item number 9, sports team recognition, presentations and announcements. And we're going to invite the Highland Rugby U18 provincial champions. Is there anyone from that group?
I think Kristen's bringing it.
Okay. So I'm going to move to that back mic, and we're going to do a little presentation here. Over here. I was told I have to use this mic here because a lot of times. So, hi, I'm Sean. And your name?
Landon.
Landon?
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
Sean.
Yes. Hi.
That's great.
Graham. Yep. Well, this is just great. Why don't you lift that baby up and show everybody?
Show everybody.
Maybe you can explain to our folks here and to our viewers exactly what happened. So who'd want to?
Yeah, sure. So good evening, everyone. My name is Ty Pinello. This is my captain partner, my friend, Landon Stafford. So we were, it's the honor to be the 2 captains of the U18 Fergus Highland provincial rugby team. And so basically we're here. We worked all season. So we start back in May, June with our 15s team. And so we kind of work all summer and we play a big, our 15, so that's just 15v15 side for side. I think we finished 4th this year. It's just pretty tough. There's a lot more numbers in 15s, and 7s is really where we kind of wanted to kind of dial in and focus our attention there. So that starts in the fall. So that's 7v7 aside. So we kind of switch up there, and it's a bit easier for us. There's a lot more communication, a lot more connection. So we ended up going all the way to provincials, the tournament out in Barrie. We kept performing and performing, coming first in pretty much every tournament we played in. We barely lost a game. Our first loss, I think, was in the second last tournament of the year. All year, and so we made it all the way to provincials. We had a long day in Barrie, pretty cold day as well. We ended up winning the cup in the last game. It was pretty exhausting, but yeah, we brought it home. So that's just a bit about who we are and why we're here.
That's fantastic. So I have a few things for you. A little presentation, U18 Boys Provincial Champion on behalf of the Mayor and Council. It is our sincere pleasure to extend congratulations on your exceptional achievement. The synergy, determination, and teamwork have resulted in this impressive accomplishment. So I'd like to give you that. And we also have a little bit of a financial contribution as well. So there you go. Again, thank you for all what you do for your community and representing our community. We really appreciate it. Thank you. Thank you. Sure. You know, guys, don't mind. Yeah. Can I stand by this baby?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
You get your cup. I brought it for you.
Thank you. Thanks again.
Thank you. Thank you.
Would you like to say something?
Yeah, sure.
Go ahead.
Well, yeah, thank you for having me here today. And thank you for your recognition for our accomplishment. So yeah, like Ty said, it was quite the season, especially 7s. That's where we thrived. And most of this thanks is due to our coach here, Graham. His commitment to us. I mean, I've had him as a coach for, it's been almost 10 years. He doesn't only help us as athletes, but also as people. And then also turned me, the two of them were, most of the thanks goes to them. But yeah, the day of, like Ty was saying, very cold, very challenging. We had a lot of injuries. And
and it was quite the day we had to step up, and we did. We won, and it meant everything for us. It was probably the last chance our team's going to play together, and especially for the Rugby Sevens itself. So it just meant a lot more. And thank you again for having us, and it's our pleasure coming here today. Thank you very much.
Thank you again. Really appreciate it.
Thank you.
Well deserved.
Okay, we're going to move down to item 9.2, Fergus Scottish Festival. We have Matthew and Elizabeth here from Festival to do a little presentation. Come on up.
Oh no. Am I good? Oh, good. All right. I don't have the press buttons. Fantastic.
You just want to.
I do. Good evening, Mayor Waters, members of council. As my right hand in crime back here pointed out, that's a pretty hard act to follow. Yeah. So as many of you know, my name is Matthew Bennett Monty, and I am the president of the Fergus Scottish Festival. And with me today is Elizabeth, the festival executive director. We are pleased to once again appear before council for our annual update and share some feel-good news regarding the festival since we were here a year ago. So before we dig into this year, let's talk about last year when we were only 79. In between the initial blasts of heat, the coolest temperatures that I can recall during festival, and scattered Scottish sunshine, we still had the pleasure to host 23,000 guests this year. And if you think for a minute that we would have been blessed with a sunny, warm Sunday, that we could have given a good run at a record attendance, well, I would have to agree with you. With the majority of our patrons being local, provincial, and cross Canada, we have a dedicated following of guests from the United States and Europe who pencil in our date every August. This year, we also hosted long-distance patron from Pakistan and Australia. Programming highlights were many. The festival is certainly solidifying itself as a premier athletic festival. High-caliber heavy events competitors can continue to show an appetite to attend and to push their physical limits. Whiskey Village was expanded this year as patron feedback continues to support local and the essence of the spirit. Our Highland Dance competitor numbers noticeably increased this year, and we are showing a resurgence. We carried on with our famed Outlander guests again, stealing the hearts of many festival goers with once-in-a-lifetime experiences. Always popular, our unique programming with our featured guests, including a Scottish version of Dancing with the Stars, is quickly becoming a highlight event for the festival and engaging a new audience from around the world. And musically, apart from the always talented performers that gather, there was one group that I affectionately referred to as "Who Even Saw That Coming?" the U.S. Marine Brass Band. They were incredible, really great collection of talent. Our on-the-ground venues were well-oiled machines this year, the end result being happy guests and a very positive experience for all. New infrastructure experiments and layout changes to optimize our footprint were a success. Another sold-out year for on-site camping. Our campers make our community their home from Monday to Thursday and spend that time enjoying what this area has to offer. It appears as we have triumphantly regained our stride following some challenging years, working tirelessly, growing our attendance, followers, sponsorships, all while responding to an ever-changing set of rules and regulations, tweaking our systems, building our teams. In 2024, we literally showed the world our true tartan, a feat that would not be possible without a dynamic, enthusiastic group of almost 400 volunteers. As we move into 2025, we are continuing to improve our service delivery and operations, prioritizing a desire to work smarter, not harder. Our tourism impact. The festival is known worldwide, and our reputation speaks to the entire community of Centre Wellington. A long-standing recipient of the Festivals and Events Ontario Top 100 Events Awards, over the past 3 years, the festival proudly welcomed an average of over 24,000 people to our event and the community, the largest attendance of any event in the community. Using the TREAM model, total visitor spending resulting from the festival is over 6.1 million regionally and 6.7 million locally. The festival itself spends approximately $500,000 in local economy purchasing goods and services. Embracing our community. Our festival mission is to deliver an event dedicated to the preservation of the visual, musical, athletic, and written heritage of Scotland and those Scottish people who have made Upper Canada their home through a celebration of culture, history, competition, and education. The festival prides itself in working closely with community organizations in the successful delivery of the festival, as well as being a leader in pursuing opportunities and projects that benefit other community events and the community at large. You have heard us speak to the various and ongoing Sportsplex infrastructure projects, upgrading outdated electrical, water, and communication systems, as well as the sharing of festival resources. There's a real sense of satisfaction when we see other events and the community at large benefiting from these projects and collaborations. Most recently, we have become a knowledge bank for events locally and across Ontario, sharing our planning and programming expertise. We fully embrace opportunities to partner and support events, including the Fergus Pipe Band's Robbie Burns Supper and the Fergus BIA Tartan Day. We provide music and athletics scholarships to the students of Centre Wellington District High School and support the Lions of the Fergus Legion Remembrance Day campaigns. With our philanthropic pursuit in our local community, we are able to assist 10 community groups, while they assisted us, of course, to the tune of just over 1,100 hours of service. Our commitment to them was over $17,000. These relationships have proven to be invaluable. In fact, more groups are reaching out to get involved. This is the shiny gold star for the festival. In the community, we are more than just 3 days. Our annual Kilt Skate community event, as part of Kilt Skate Canada, was our biggest ever, and we won the coveted title of Kilt Skate Capital of Canada. We also expanded our presence at Tartan Day with an impressive interactive display in downtown Fergus behind the library, and we also experienced success again this year at the Multicultural Festival. The festival is composed of volunteers who work tirelessly to keep programming engaging and relevant while promoting our mandate, promoting our local community, and ensuring guests and visitors feel safe and enjoy every moment they spend with us. Now on to 2025. Well, we're well underway planning another milestone year with our 80th anniversary celebration. Local Outlander star, superstar, Charles van der Vaart will be back as a featured guest. We are hosting a Scottish Saturday night featuring festival fan favorites Albinak, the ever-popular Red Hot Chili Pipers, and the boy band who turned the world tartan, the Bay City Rollers. We will also be enhancing patron services with the return of our tea tent and quiet zones and a new VIP patrons tent. Community-wide, we're also hoping for your support in turning Centre Wellington tartan. We have received a provincial grant to purchase animations for the downtown core and look forward to working with township staff and the BIA on their placement. Our request for the Community Investment Fund also supports the desire to decorate downtown and supply additional shuttle bus services throughout the community. How does this relate to council? As an event of municipal significance, the festival continues our quest to be a festival of choice regionally, nationally, and internationally, coupled with a desire to continue to contribute to our community. We are passionate as we strive for excellence and growth with an impact culturally, economically, socially, and environmentally. The news and updates that we have shared today align with your own council and township priorities, including create the conditions for economic prosperity, improve the activity, health, and wellness of our community, and managing growth while enhancing the community's unique character. Event delivery is fraught with ongoing challenges and increased expectations, but we are better prepared than ever to navigate the changes that lie ahead. We are grateful for our exceptional working relationship with the township, staff, many community groups, partners, and individuals that make this event happen. Although we no longer anticipate significant granting from the township, we do continue to depend on the cooperation, support, and consideration of the township. We would welcome and encourage the township's ongoing support of the festival and events like ours that strive to provide the best and safest event experience possible while contributing positively to the community, the economy, and keeping Centre Wellington on the map. Financial support for our endeavors were not being considered initially. However, we are hoping our Community Investment Fund application for the 80th anniversary celebrations in the community, as well as additional shuttle bus support would, as their impact would be noticeable. We were encouraged to complete a grant request for the newly revised Community Investment Fund, despite receiving a discount on our CW Sportsplex rental. Of note, the festival receives an in-kind support on our rental in the space in the CW Community Sportsplex. Although not unique to us, the discount that is applied is applied to all renters. We also qualify for the special event discount that affects the indoor-outdoor facility rentals. The total of in-kind support received is $7,762.44, with the festival paying the remaining $24,943.97, plus associated permit fees, noise exemption, and building permits. We hope that future support can be garnered through township operations or purchasing that would be of benefit to groups like ours. For example, security cameras and secured storage for festival and township assets could perhaps mitigate losses due to vandalism and mischief. Barricades, pylons, and bars, immensely helpful for vehicle and pedestrian safety management. And perhaps we can explore options for a fireworks staging area and assist with parking alternatives for guests. It is our vision that the whole community will celebrate this milestone. And in closing, we would like to formally invite council to join us as our special guests for our 80th anniversary. Until then, we invite you to join us for Kilt Skate, February 23rd, 4:30 to 5:30 at the CW Community Sportsplex. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Matthew. Questions, comments from council? Councillor McDonald.
Hey, Mayor Waters. I attended the Robbie Burns dinner Saturday night. It was fabulous. I love everything that you're doing. This is the 80th anniversary. It is a really big deal. And not just because the Bay City Rollers are coming. I saw them when I was like 12 years old. So I just have to put that out there. So I want to support you as much as we can, how it falls in the budget. I'm looking to direction of our CAO and community services, how I can help that way.
Thank you. Okay. I would be remiss. Sorry, I just need to add this, or else I can hear Elizabeth in the background saying, "Mention the 80th tartan." We do have an 80th anniversary tartan that will be coming out this year as well. So,
Councillor Adams.
Through you. Thanks again for coming and your presentation. Looking forward to the event. And I actually think the two presentations today worked well against each other. In that time, I actually wanted to know a little bit more about rugby. And the two facts that came up said the first international game of rugby was played between Scotland and England in 1871, and Scotland won. And the rugby sevens, which the U18 group was the one that they won the championship, actually originated in Melrose, Scotland. So kind of nice tie together. Yeah.
Any other comments or questions? Yes, Councillor Boy.
Through you, sir. I'll just take a minute to thank you and Elizabeth for coming in and for continuing to put the community first in this event. I understand we're a growing community and growing with regards to our diversity and new kinds of events that we're very excited and proud to host and support. I just want to say that you guys just keep pushing forward and you keep doing great work and you keep making us proud. So keep up the good work.
Any further comments or questions? Well, thank you, Matthew, for coming out. Elizabeth, again, thank you. And we look forward. It was a fantastic, I went out a few times last year and it was great, and appreciate all the efforts and what you do and your staff and all your volunteers do. It's a great event and it really showcases our community. So really appreciate it. So thanks again.
Thank you very much. Honored to do so.
Yep. Okay, we're down at item 9.3. I'm going to do a little change. I'm going to ask if you, council will be cool with this. I'm going to slip out the Mayor's County Council report because it's been kind of late, and we all spent a bit of time at Roma, so I think we all know that. But we have the opportunity to hear from the Elora Arts Council, and we have as you can see on the walls, we have something up there, and I'd like to invite Barb to come up and speak to this and introduce us to the artists.
Thank you, Mayor Waters. Good evening, everybody. It's a delight again to be here. And I'm not going to tie up a lot of your time because we're wedging into your schedule. However, I hope that you all have had a chance to look at the work that's on the walls. Fiber art is having a moment, and the nature of the fiber art that's being done by Megan Cleland is quite remarkable. And it's a point of needle felting. And I want to have Megan herself be able to share her information with you. So I'm not going to tie you up, but the Elora Fergus Arts Council is always delighted to be able to bring art to the community, and especially to here in council chambers where it raises your walls beautifully. So welcome, Megan. Thank you.
Hello, Mayor Waters and council. So 10 years ago, my husband and I moved from Meaford to Elora, and love the community. It's kind of where we wanted to be with all the art stuff happening. I was a portrait artist, and I wanted to see if I could use my love of fiber with my portraits. And as you can see, it worked. It took 2 years to figure out that wool, they're all made of wool, is not like paint. Blue and yellow doesn't give you green. And it's very different. But I think the fiber, it lends itself to the portraits. I love doing people's animals, especially in memorials. And I've been doing it for 10 years now, and I teach it locally and across the province. So I'm trying to get it out there. 2 years ago, I went to the Royal Winter Fair as a vendor and was blowing people away, and it was very successful. So I'm going back this year for the whole thing. But I started out doing 2-dimensional, and it kind of looks like they're 3-dimensional. And then I had a brainwave, and I thought, well, what if I pair my 2D with a 3D, which is this guy, but it takes so long to create this. Like, there's over 100 hours in that because you lay all the fur on. So then I kind of thought, well, what if I combine my 3D into my 2-dimensional? And this is what I came up with. So it's, yeah. It kind of freaks people out because a lot of them don't like octopus. But I'm now thinking I could do a lot of different portraits and combine the two, because nobody is doing this. So I teach at the Elora Center for the Arts, and we did a class this past weekend, and everybody wants to do more. So I'm part of the Fergus Fiber Festival, and I demonstrate there spinning flax, which is also my second love. So are there any questions? Oh, this is what I use to do them. They're all done with one needle, and it has little notches out of it. So it grabs the wool and you're stabbing it and you're laying it out. So my DNA is on a few pieces. But if there's any questions.
Councillor McDonald.
Thank you, Megan. Through you, sir.
Through you, Mayor Waters.
Okay.
You pointed to me and said,
Sorry,
I apologize.
yes. So let's start with Councillor
Through
McDonald.
you, Mayor Waters. Thank you so much. I had no idea what you could do with fiber. This is amazing, and the walls look amazing. They were bare there for a bit.
I know.
So thank you so much.
Yeah.
This is really nice to see.
And I try and source my wool locally when I can from local farmers, and do a lot of my own dyeing.
And you dye it yourself. That's beautiful.
Some of it, yeah.
Beautiful work.
Thank you.
Okay, any other comments, questions? Okay. Well,
right,
thank you
well,
very much, Megan.
thank you,
I
and I
really appreciate you bringing your friend. Do you have a name for your friend?
It's Harry the Tank. Tank the Hare. Yeah.
Tank the Hare.
And he's actually sold. He's going to Australia. Yeah. Yeah. So
Thank you very much for coming in, and we're going to enjoy your art for the next little while.
it's great.
So appreciate
Thank
it. Thank you. Let's move down to 9.4. If there's any, like myself, it was kind of, but if there's any updates from council, Councillor Craddock.
Through you, I had my first water and wastewater committee meeting, which was informative. And they did a great job, I think, onboarding me and catching me up. But it was the fourth quarter review. I've marked some highlights. Let's go through them quick. There was no incidents of regulatory or non-compliance or adverse water quality issues, which I think is quite great to celebrate. There were 2 water main breaks when the report came out, but I believe before the meeting, which was on the 18th of December, there was a 3rd by that time, all in Fergus, but handled quickly and efficiently. No real impact on residents. What else we got here? Sorry, apologies. The Scotland Water Tower had an external wash. Looks good. What else can I tell you here? Yeah, compliance and quality, all good. So again, my first informative meeting with them. Like it. Missed the senior center though. I hope they're doing good. Give them my best. But yeah, that's water and wastewater.
Thank you, Dennis. Councillor McDonald.
I'm going to start with the first one. It was Safe Communities. Safe Communities, Wellington County pairs with Parachute, Canada, and North America. So they're sort of reorganizing what Safe Communities is about, and I believe that's what came through this CSPA, why it is being changed a little bit. And Christine Veed is doing an exceptional job of organizing it. So some things that are coming forward, some of the action groups are going to get together with some seniors, with Helen, the Victoria Park Senior Center, Safe Communities will be there on February 28th. There's a farm safety pancake breakfast. They're doing a Poison Prevention Week, Drayton Farm Show. If anyone wants to help out with any of these, just reach out to me. But other than that, that's about all there is on Safe Communities. And then the Victoria Park Senior Center, yes, it is a fun board to be on. So again, they are gearing up for their open house at the end of February. Basically, we went over the treasurer's report, the kitchen report. In December, Mayor Waters, myself, and staff handed out a Christmas dinner at lunchtime. That was nice. And I think the residents really loved it. That's about it right now.
Thank you, Councillor McDonald. Any other updates from any other committees? Okay, so now we're going to move down to delegations. 10.1. We have Pierre Chauvin from MHBC planning on behalf of 2587722 Ontario Inc. Regarding item 12.2, zoning amendment RZ04 2024 decision report, 750 Street, St. David Street in Fergus. And welcome, Pierre.
Thank you, Mayor Waters, members of council. Just here to support the staff report that's on your agenda. I've read the report. It was excellent. Well, there were issues, as you recall, raised at the public meeting that were addressed, and we provided a detailed response to staff, and I believe that's part of the staff report as well. And really just here to answer any questions that the council may have at this point, and here in support of the application. Thank you.
Thank you, Pierre. So what we'll do is when we move down to item 12.2, we'll go into questions. So if you can just hang tight there, Pierre, we'll be back to you shortly.
Thank you.
Okay, so we're down now to consent items. Oh, we can invite Councillor Wilton back. Okay, so we're at item 11, consent items. Consent agenda items are considered routine in nature and voted on collectively. However, any member of council may request one or more items be removed from consent agenda item for separate discussion and or action. So I'll read the recommendation that the Council of the Township of Centre Wellington approve and consent agenda items 11.1 through to 11.8. Do I have questions or do I have a mover? Okay. Okay. Let's do the seconder on that first, if we wouldn't mind. Do we have a second? Yes. Okay. Councillor Evoy, question. Yes.
Thank you, Mayor Waters. I just had a comment and a question regarding item 11. Right on my glasses. 8, the green space lighting extension update. So first of all, I was kind of disappointed to see the interpretation of staff delegation on this. My interpretation of the staff delegation for timing and color would be like timing of the day. So the lights get turned on at 5 or at 6 p.m. or turned off at 10 or 11 p.m., that type of timing. I worry that if staff are delegated authority, it could be earlier in the season, like before Remembrance Day, and I would not want to see that happen. So I would have preferred it came to us for that approval, like an extension application would have come back to council. So that's kind of my, I guess it's not a question, it's just a comment. That's, yeah, how I feel about that. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor McDonald.
So sorry, I'm confused. I thought we were talking about the extension to March, or that's all I thought we were talking about.
Yeah.
I'm not sure now.
Would anyone from staff perspective, would anyone can speak to this maybe in terms of what the initial, this is a little bit of a moving target, just given sort of, as we know, we came through the Christmas season and then there was another event planned. And I think obviously we're sort of adjusting here. We're a little bit on the fly, but I won't put any words into staff's mouths here, and I'll let. Yes, welcome. Please save me.
Thank you, Mayor Waters, and through you. Yes, Councillor Wilton. So it was a change in schedule through the request to extend the lighting based on the Village of Lights initiative, rather. Once we reviewed what the report was in the bylaw, we saw that there was delegated authority for the director to approve that, and so based on our discussions, and we were able to move forward with that. So that was the reasoning behind it. I don't know, maybe Dan, if you have anything to further to add.
Comment, yes.
So I did have a question because in the original report we got back in July that the lights were going to be turned off at the end of February and actually physically removed off the trees in early March. And at the time, it was deemed that township staff are confident that this plan will allow for the protection of the trees. So now that timing has all been moved.
2 weeks further.
Yeah.
So,
So it was-
in sorry, I interrupted you. Carry on.
Was the arborist consulted on that? Moving the timeline?
Through you, Mayor. Yes. My apologies, first of all, for interrupting. And second of all, yes, we did consult our urban forester on the condition, if that would have any effect on the condition of the trees. Given the year, and typically the dormancy goes until about mid-April and May, so that doesn't have any effect on the dormancy of the trees or the removal of the lights and the affecting the trees in any respect.
Councillor Evoy.
Through you, sir. So with regards to the lighting now, roughly 5 months of 12, was there or is there any space for, I'm not trying to stir anything, just trying to get some information, any consultation with those people that live in that space that have those bright lights for such like 5 of 12 months? I think 3 of 12 felt a little different, 5 of 12. I just want to make sure that we've checked in with the people who live in those areas as well.
Through you, Mayor, and thank you for the question. So we haven't received, to my knowledge, any feedback. I'd maybe have to consult with our director to see if there's been anything through other avenues, but to my knowledge, there's been no feedback one way or the other on that. We have not proactively gone out door to door to ask, on the condition of the lights. I mean, if there is any issues through the residents, we'd welcome them to go to the Report It tool, so we're able then to gauge that, and or reach out to township staff, so we're able to gauge that, and we're able to then make decisions accordingly.
On the lighting now, in terms of the time of the lights that have specific hours of coming on and then going off now, my understanding, because earlier in the, I'll call it the Christmas season, they were on for a long time. So those hours have been shifted down or tightened?
There has been a reduction in the hours. So the hours that the town is illuminated and the event itself, Light Up the Village, is from 6 p.m. till 8 p.m. So it's for a duration of 2 hours throughout the evening. And I've been there at that time. They promptly come on at 6 and they promptly go off at 8.
Sorry, a follow-up question. One, it's 2-part. Did we land on something from Councillor Wilton with regards to next year's start time? I agree. I don't want to see it happen before November 11th. So is there room between now and next year for us to make sure we put something in place to mitigate that before it becomes...
Through you, Mayor. And that is something the staff is very, very cognizant of, and we're very aware of the respect around Remembrance Day, and it was a key point actually in creating this agreement at this point. And so that's something we definitely will respect.
Great. And follow up to the lights right now. Is that just weekends? Is it Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or is it all week right now?
Again, through you, it's from Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m.
Okay, any other further comments, questions? Okay, so we had a mover and a seconder on that. All those have any further comments, questions as it relates to the consent? Okay, seeing none, all those in favor? So moved. Okay. We'll now move down to item 12.1, OFM Fire Protection Grant Transfer Payment Agreement report. Dan's replacing Adam here, and yeah, he's going to speak to this item now. Thank you.
Is with respect to a grant application through the Ontario Fire Marshal's Office. The office was providing $30 million in grants over 3 years, focusing in on fire, health and safety, minor infrastructure, and specialized tools. This is year 1 of that program, and they're focusing in on health and safety and minor infrastructure related to fire. We did apply for a grant to purchase particulate blocking hoods for our firefighters. And these are hoods that would block 99.8% of toxic particles from the skin. So very much in support of the health and safety of our firefighters. We'll be getting 70 of these hoods to allow for 66 volunteer firefighters and 4 management staff. So we're here to announce that we were successful in receiving $16,340 in grant funding to purchase these hoods. We need to enter into a transfer payment agreement to do this. So we're looking to get approval to have the mayor and clerk sign the transfer agreement and to allow for staff to purchase the hoods with the available funds.
Thank you very much. Comments, questions for Dan? Councillor McDonald.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Waters. What are the hoods that we're using now, or we don't have hoods?
Through Mayor Waters, I'm going to ask Chief Mulvey to come up and answer that question.
Sorry. Thank you very much for the question. And through you, Mayor Waters, I anticipated that question. This is the hoods that we wear now. We also call them balaclavas. Right, so they do an excellent job of stopping us from getting burnt in the face, ears, and neck area. However, they do not block particulates or byproducts of fire. So smoke can make its way through. Carcinogen-causing, cancer-causing things can land on your skin. They've been trying to anticipate a hood and get one that's actually flexible enough, and they have. This is the hoods that we are purchasing. So it's now a multi-layered hood that stops particulates from as well as heat coming through and burning us. $35, $250. So that big a hit on the budget, and all of our other gear is actually multi-layered and stops. This is the only piece of equipment that would allow those carcinogens to get to our skin.
Further comments or questions? Councillor Evoy.
So just a question. Thanks, Chief, as always. How many are we buying, did you say? And are these washable and reusable, or does the firefighter own it after that? Like it's quite a difference in cost.
Yeah, absolutely. So they are washable, and they're just air dried with the same as our restorer equipment would be. So we're actually going to embroider them with each firefighter's name, because some of these do go missing in the wash and stuff like that, so that they'll be able to be accountable for their own hood, realizing how much they are to cost to replace.
Okay, any other further comments or questions? Well, thank you very much for that. I'm going to read the recommendation that the Council of Township of Centre Wellington pass a bylaw to authorize the mayor and municipal clerk to execute the OFM Fire Protection Grant Transfer Payment Agreement, and that Council approves the expenditure of funding in the amount of $16,340 for the purchase of upgraded personal protective equipment to include particulate blocking hoods. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Evoy. Seconder on that, Councillor Wilton. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? So move. Thank you very much for that report and that important piece of equipment. So we'll moving down to item 12.2. Okay, so we're zoning amendment RZ 04-2024 decision report 750 St. David Street North, Fergus. Yes, Deanna, how are you?
Council. The report before you is a zoning amendment application for 750 St. David Street North in Fergus. The property is located at the northeast corner of St. David Street North and Parkside Drive East. It currently contains a single detached bungalow and detached garage that will be removed to facilitate redevelopment. The property is approximately 1,500 square meters with mainly single detached dwellings to the east, a multi-residential building directly across Parkside Drive East, commercial uses to the south and west along St. David Street North, and institutional uses to the north, consisting of a church and elementary school. A municipal park known as Strathallan Park is located east of the school in close proximity to the subject site. And there's an approximately 13-meter wide pedestrian walkway owned by the Wellington Catholic District School Board directly to the northeast, which separates the property from surrounding low-density residential uses. The application seeks to amend the zoning from R1C residential to R4 residential with exemptions, as outlined in the staff report. The redevelopment proposes 12 two-bedroom purpose-built rental stacked townhouse units with 18 parking spaces, along with secure exterior bicycle lockers. Several studies were submitted in support of the application, including a planning justification report, functional servicing report, stormwater management report, geotechnical investigation report, and transportation impact assessment. Several of the technical studies identify recommendations in support of the application, and there was nothing raised in the studies that would warrant a refusal of the application. Staff have reviewed the application within the context of the current applicable policy framework, detailed in the staff report, and generally agree with the assessment and conclusions presented in the planning justification report. A public meeting was held on September 25th, 2024. There were several delegations, and a petition containing 107 names was also received. The minutes and written submissions have been attached to the staff report. Concerns related primarily to street parking, traffic, location of new access on Parkside Drive East, snow removal, light pollution, servicing, water pressure, and retention of trees. The applicant has prepared a response document to the public meeting comments, also appended to the staff report. Staff are of the opinion that most of the concerns that were raised have been adequately addressed or can be addressed through the future site plan process. The site plan process will consider matters of landscaping, snow storage, lighting, building design, parking, servicing, grading, and drainage, and the necessary agreements will be put into place. The zoning bylaw amendment to allow for an increased density within an urban center on an underutilized lot where municipal services are available meets the policies of the township and county official plans. Further, the provision of an appropriate range and mix of housing options, including rental units, is encouraged to meet projected needs of current and future residents. The proposed development is also located along a major roadway where many amenities and services within walking distance are available, promoting pedestrian activity and active transportation. For these reasons, staff recommend approval of the application. I'm happy to answer any questions, and we also have the agent, Pierre Chauvin, here as well.
Thank you for that. So I'll open council for questions. Councillor McDonald.
Through you, Mayor Waters. Okay, the traffic report, land development review correspondence. The MTO states the subject property is located beyond our limits of permit control and therefore MTO review. So I guess my question here is, no, it definitely is my question here. Why is the driveway being moved? Because that was a concern by residents.
Perhaps Pierre wanted to speak to that, why they're proposing to move it?
Sure, Peter, Mayor Waters. One of the functions of St. David Street is it's a major arterial road. It carries a lot of traffic, and the intention is to continue to do that. And the more entrances you have typically along arterial roads, tends to slow traffic down and create bottlenecks, perhaps accidents. So typically you want to try to reduce those entrances, and particularly having an entrance. We wouldn't be keeping an entrance in its current location. We'd likely probably shifting it further north, closer to the entrance to the school church property. And you'd something like that. I'm no traffic expert, but having done this for many years, you end up with a lot of conflicts, with a lot of turning movements, with offsetting intersections and whatnot. So the intention really was to try to minimize those impacts and direct it to more of a local road, so where there's much less traffic, and then you can control the traffic coming and going at basically a T or a four-way intersection. And so that's really about trying to control the traffic and not creating traffic issues. And as you've heard, the traffic studies that we've done has indicated that there's no impact on those intersections with the anticipated volumes. It's very low volumes created by this development. and really the location of the driveway is appropriate distance from that intersection to allow for proper queuing of vehicles either entering or exiting the site.
I have a follow-up. I still have a concern over how the children are walking to school. They do use that pathway. I also was informed, wasn't informed, we don't really have a say over the site plan. So even though it goes down to site plan, I still don't have a say as a counselor. So I feel like that part was taken away from me as a counselor earlier. I think that was a couple of years ago. And we delegate that to planning department, but it might not be what the people want. And, it was a bungalow that was completely redone inside for sale. And so I have concerns over those.
Councillor Evoy.
Thank you, through you, sir. I'm just reminding myself that the high school is not there anymore. It's not going to be there anymore. So that will alleviate some of the concerns that we initially had when we were looking at this site. So that, as far as I'm concerned, reads as a good news piece on this property.
Councillor Adams.
Thank you, Mayor, through you. Sorry, is there a photo? So the path coming from like the church school parking lot that will not be there anymore, or will, like, is there?
Yes, through you.
I
That
don't
will
know
be,
if we're able to sue them.
through you, that will be retained by the school. The school board owns it. It's not proposed to be sold right now. So it's not a part of this application. It's remaining there.
Sorry, I was just wondering if you could, like, is there a way we can zoom in on the image? So, like, where does that go to now? That's a couple over. It's a couple pieces over.
It's right beside the property there. It's hard to see.
Okay. I gotta zoom in up in here.
Yeah. We're looking for that. Are there any further questions, comments?
Sorry, through you. This has nothing to do with zoning, but it does with the unit itself. The potential for, it's rental, I believe, right? Thank you. Tenants in that space. If this comes to fruition, I would only ask that the landlord or the developer encourage like a very rigorous tenant application process, just due to its proximity to the school. With renters sometimes being transient and 1-year leases, and there's the potential for lots of residents to go through that space, that we just try to our best ability, or this developer or landlord, if they will, try to make sure that the individuals living there don't pose. It's hard to know, but any threat, just a vigorous vetting system if possible. Thank you.
So this is the blown up, you can see the hatch line there, and it looks like a little bit of a wood lot there, but there's a trail that goes through there and goes from the Parkside Drive through to the school site. Councillor McDonald.
Yeah, for me, I'm just gonna put it out there. I have real concerns with this. Was a development that was developed by previous councils, and they were given the layout like we have done in other housing developments. And this is undoing those developments. To me, this is not a great way of intensification areas. We're doing well with our housing target, so I'm not super concerned, except for the fact that this is altering an existing subdivision. I live in one of them, and I would not like to see the home next to me taken down and put up many properties. So I'm just gonna add that out.
Okay, any further comments or questions? Maybe this is a question of Pierre. This could have been, I thought you had mentioned previously that this could have also been a strip mall as well, or the potential for a strip mall outside of residential. So I know that some of the issues here in terms of the traffic, if it's a strip mall, there's going to be way more traffic as opposed to sort of a residential community here. And, you know, typically hours of residence are, most people are working during the day. If they go off to work, then they come home at night. And then whereas if it was maybe potentially a strip mall, that goes to whatever 7 to 11 at night and a lot more traffic. So given the fact that it's sort of its location and sort of you look at the neighboring community there's a lot of shops and stores and that. So it would be sort of in that keeping, I would think. So it's these things are never perfect, but I think the potential to have some additional rental units within the community, which would definitely, the issue of traffic would be a lot less, and I think there's to me that is probably not a bad use that way, and we did hear of the amount of traffic, and that there would not be the degree of traffic there would be if there was a different use. And these properties, if you look in any community along a major thoroughfare, over time these properties do change. That's just the nature of how development is, especially in a growing community. So the likelihood of it staying as a single family residence, there's always that pressure that way to change, and given the fact that so it's a tough one for, I can see it's a tough one for council to digest that way, but we definitely need housing in this community, and we definitely need rental in this community as well. And then I know for myself, looking at it, trying to look at sort of that way, I thought, the options are not good. If the option, it could have been sort of taken into that sort of idea of a commercial development, which would add a lot more traffic to that part. So anyways, that's just, I'm just putting that out there.
I want to clarify, Mayor Waters, this isn't designated highway commercial. This is designated residential. But I think I don't know, sure, maybe if I said that earlier, I apologize if I misled you. But the lands across the road are definitely highway commercial. This is simply rezoning to a different type of zoning classification to allow for this intensification. I would know the lands immediately to the south of us on Parkside is an apartment as well. So it's the same kind of use.
Okay. Thank you for that clarification, Pierre. Councillor Adams.
Thank you, through you. If I was to look at this one development on its own, I'm not sure I would have like as much as concerns as I have when I look at it with all the other recent developments that we've approved in this area. Just driving through this area right now, trying to get to the grocery store or the local gas station down there right now, there's a lot of traffic on that road and a lot of fast traffic, it seems, coming into town. So we've, in every development proposal we've heard about concerns of like entering on that street. I appreciate that this one is back, but it's just like how much we're adding in these 2 blocks here on St. David Street North. I just worry about the general safety. Like, we want to encourage active lifestyle, and we have like a new section of the road with bike lanes, whether that's future. We want to make sure people are feeling safe and walking and moving around in this area. So again, I'm just kind of struggling because this on its own, there's not like a lot of like warnings or anything. But when you look at everything in there, like, is there are we looking, and maybe this is more Colin, a question to you, like, are we going to be seeing, like, I don't know, changes happening in this area of St. David Street headed north? Are we going to be seeing extra lights, extra crosswalks, these kind of things?
Yeah, through the mayor. So hard to predict the future, but yeah, no, it's something that we do keep an eye on. So we'll look at completing what we call warrant analysis that looks at justification for intersection signalization, additional turning lanes. So I think with this specific area, there's no improvements identified at this time. I think from the staff have reviewed the traffic impact study prepared in support of the development, which also doesn't recommend any improvements, and we concur with those recommendations.
Councillor Craddock.
Just to keep that train of thought going, with the next phase of the reconstruction of St. David Street North, which is I think ends at Edinburgh, which is a block down or the next street down, next street south. Is there any traffic calming or any mitigating, anything that would help alleviate some of the concerns that these developments are raising?
Yeah, through the mayor. So the next phase of St. David Street will get underway probably, April timing, kind of mid to late April. The design at this stage, it's a similar cross section to what's there now. So 2 lanes. The bike lanes are extending. So the bike lanes are going from Garefraxa right up to Edinburgh. And it's conceivable at some point, that bike lanes may extend at some point further north on St. David Street. But as part of that construction project, we are looking at there'll be detour traffic as well. We're looking at the detour routes, and then just like we did last year with traffic calming on some of the streets that were being used to kind of shortcut around the construction area. We're looking at traffic calming and signage just like we did last year. Yeah.
Councillor Evi.
Thank you, through you. So listening to my colleagues, the concern seems to be more about traffic than about anything else. We know we need rental spaces in this community. I think we can agree that we need rental spaces. Is there space, having gone through, being that it's in my ward as well, having gone through the last reconstruction and the implementation of the traffic calming measures that were used and so deeply, incredibly well done and so appreciated. I'm wondering, knowing the problems that we do have off some of these streets across the way, like Black, for example, where our own tools tell us that we have a lot of concerns in that area, maybe what we do is be a little bit more proactive, knowing that we've got the construction and knowing that we've got the reconstruction. Maybe we make it a thing that they're not temporary traffic calming. We put in stronger traffic calming, like the speed bumps or whatever we were using, that we would use again, not telling anybody how to do their job. But maybe we go ahead and consider that as a newfound norm. It's not just during reconstruction, so that we can accommodate the increased traffic that we know is coming without building new lights or traffic circles or whatever might need to be done. Not being an engineer or a planner, I completely, again, defer to y'all, but I'm sure there's a way that we can get in front of this and be proactive by including some measures that maybe are to stay, especially in that Black Street area going forward. Is that at all a possibility?
Through the mayor. So no great comments. And staff are working off of, we do have a traffic calming policy that we are applying. I think just with some new experience, we've tried some new methods of traffic calming over the last couple of years. It's definitely staff's intention to bring forward a revised policy for council's consideration. And we are planning to do that later this year. So so we'll definitely be furthering the discussions about temporary and not so temporary traffic calming measures for sure.
Yes, Brett.
Just listening to the conversation on some council questions, I'd like to point out a couple of things. One of which would be a reminder of our intensification target, which is 20% of all future housing to be intensification within the existing built-up area. This application would meet that test. Council has made it very clear that it wishes to encourage intensification and higher density rather than expanding the urban boundary more than the county has initially allocated to us. And then secondly, in response, just to follow up on Councillor Adams' question, I think about where this development is sort of directed, based on the county and the township OP, we do provide fairly limited opportunities for multi-residential housing. They are specifically directed to the major roads. So at an intersection like this of Highway 6 and Parkside, or if this was a county road, those are the major arterial roads where we specifically encourage multi-residential development, or they're one of the few places where they are allowed. If you went east to the rest of Parkside Drive, policy that exists today wouldn't be kind to a multi-res proposal. So the major roadways are exactly one of the few places where we can make up that 20% intensification.
Councillor McDonald.
Through you, Mayor Waters. Thank you, Brett. I understand where you're coming from. You know, we've approved the Fergus secondary plan that will have 6-story apartment buildings in it. This is a perfectly good home in a perfectly lovely neighborhood that has existed for over 40 years. And I'm just, that's not intensification to me when we barely got an apartment building downtown Fergus over the finish line, and it's trailers in its place that are being taken out. This is a perfectly good house. So I have to keep that in mind, but thank you.
Any other comments, questions from council? In terms of community safety zone, we know obviously there's a school in that. So are there things that we can do under that auspices, you know, that way? I know the county has just recently put in some cameras along Bellside, and then maybe there's an opportunity to, I'm not suggesting that, but you know, but are there safety measures given sort of the fact that there are kids in the area? And I think really our concerns are more on speed of traffic. And I know you have done some work there, but are there other things that we can do as a staff and council?
Yeah, no, great question. And yeah, staff have made a number of safety improvements with the Strathallan and St. David Street intersections, things like we kind of worked with the crossing guard and the school board just to do things like, you know, we've got the ladder markings now at the crosswalk, kind of lines up with Walmart. We have the countdown, so the pedestrian signal actually has a timed countdown, so another visual cue for pedestrians and drivers that I have time, or well, I need to slow down because I'm going to get a yellow light very soon. We've also actually council amended our posted speed limit bylaw not that long ago to reduce the speed limit on this stretch to 40 when flashing. So the idea is that before school and after school, that the speed limit on this stretch of St. David Street will be reduced to 40. So just things that some changes that have been made over the last little bit. We're just awaiting to get the signage and get those things installed probably later this spring, but that's also a change that's coming to this stretch of road.
Okay, any further comments or questions from council? Okay. Thank you for that report. I'm going to read the recommendation that the Council of Township of Centre Wellington approves application RZ04 -24 for zoning bylaw amendment and gives 3 readings to the necessary bylaw. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Jefferson, seconder on that. Councillor Evoy. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? That's so moved. Okay. Okay. And make that opposed. Yep. So I didn't ask for a count, but we'll make sure that you're aware of that. So, okay. So we'll wait for Councillor Wilton, who's here now. Bye, Pierre. Okay. We're moving down to item 12.3, zoning amendment RZ0724 decision report, Centre Wellington Business Park. And we've got Salmon back.
I think I'll just stay seated if you don't mind. Council heard the public meeting comments, so it's pretty clear what we're recommending here. We've taken the report on the business park strategy, we've aligned it with the terms that are defined in our bylaw, and we've deleted and added proposed uses based on the business park strategy. So that's what the bylaw before you does. Just to add, if Councillor McDonald noted reluctance to delete the medical clinic, and in the proposed bylaw section 11.4.1, if council wished to continue to or to allow a medical clinic, then you could simply delete that language from section 11.4.1 in the bylaw. And just, it adds business or professional office, but not including a medical clinic. If we just leave it at business or professional office, then a medical clinic would be permitted. So that's the only thing I have to add.
Okay, so let me read the recommendation first, and then we'll figure our way through here. Okay, a recommendation that the Council of Township of Centre Wellington gives 3 readings to a zoning amendment affecting the remaining township business park lands. So I'll put that out there. I'll ask for a mover first. Councillor Wilton, a seconder on that. You're the seconder on that? Okay. And
but I'm going to make a friendly amendment.
Okay.
To add that a medical facility, if proposed, could be looked at.
Okay, so I'm going to open up to council here for any comments as it relates to that amendment. Yes, Councillor Adams.
Thank you, through you. So just to clarify, that was put in when it was in relation to parking concerns. There was no other concerns.
Like the zoning bylaw itself, the current M2 zone would not allow a business or professional office. So in the business park strategy, the consultant recommended that business or professional office be added, but they specifically said not a medical clinic. Not a lot of details specifically as to why. I'm speculating that it's because of the parking requirement. But again, the goal here is employment, right? So, but again, we are at a point where you could say we have a business vacancy rate that's almost nil, right? So any inquiries that we get about new businesses wanting to locate in Centre Wellington, it's very often, well, there's no vacant space available. So I think that's not really a major issue if council wanted to allow a medical clinic and just add business or professional office. I don't think that's going to greatly offend the business park strategy.
Okay, any other comments, questions as it relates to this? Yes, Councillor Wilton.
Yeah, I appreciate your comments, Brett. I just do think, like your earlier comments during the public meeting when you suggested that there's land more appropriate for medical offices where you get kind of a cluster effect of all the medical and health professionals closer to the hospital is kind of preferable. We don't know for sure what kind of traffic patterns will be in the business park. If there's going to be, I know it's not heavy industrial, but there might be pretty persistent truck traffic of some sort or another. So whether, you know, elderly people driving to a doctor's office out in the business park is a really compatible use when we could be directing the medical offices towards more of a central location closer to the hospital. So I'm fine with leaving it as it was presented in the public meeting. Thank you.
Okay. Councillor Evoy.
Thank you. Question through you, sir. So I hear you saying that we have very limited space for businesses. How much space do we have for the kinds of things that we're trying to look at in the business park, factories and manufacturers and things like that? Are there other options? So we know there are limited options for a whole clinic. What about if we're talking about for these businesses that it was first designed for? What options do they have?
I mean, I would say in general, in Southern Ontario, there's a shortage of industrial or business park land for those types of uses, which is why certainly the land value at $450,000 an acre is a lot more, I think, than we thought it would be when we set out on this process and bought the land. The fact that it's worth that much, and we'll be reporting on the pricing policy soon, but we won't be recommending a significant change. In Center Wellington, there's a shortage of space in general for, in particular, the multi-tenant use that Councillor Jefferson brought up is something that, we get a lot of businesses that they grow, they outgrow where they are, and then they have nowhere else to go. So we do try to encourage people to build like a multi-tenant building. And some of the additions of the uses would enhance that. I can't say that we've had any kind of inquiry related to a medical clinic, but also remember, if you do add medical clinic, that would also include like physiotherapists and all those other things. I know, there certainly are examples that I can think of in Guelph where a physio clinic that has a gym attached to it is in their business park. So it's not the type of use that necessarily is like out of line. I do tend to agree with Councillor Wilton that I don't think in our community the business park is where a medical clinic is going to want to go, not for medical doctors. But we do have a shortage of where business can locate. So
A follow-up, sir. So in recent conversations with someone else who's got some industrial property that they were looking to rent out and they were deemed unable to put in a physiotherapist or something like that. How about if we took a look at letting those smaller spaces have them and keeping the business park, but reviewing some of those smaller spaces where I happen to know somebody who's been trying to get permission to put in a physiotherapist or something in their smaller, albeit industrial space. Can we adjust those and leave this for that rather than make them all closed to medical or healthcare options? So we kind of solve both problems here?
That is an option, and I know exactly the site you're thinking of, and we kind of struggle with that one, but the reality is our zoning bylaw doesn't allow our business or professional office as it stands. I think we could take that approach that you direct staff to review the M2 and the M1 zone and all the permitted uses and bring forward a recommendation as to where those types of uses should be allowed. We can certainly do that. It could go through the...
I personally would like to look further into that going forward.
Could go through the EPG committee.
Councillor McDonald.
Yeah, through you, Mayor Waters. My doctor's office is in a business area, and it works out fine. I'm just concerned that if we close that off, physio or an osteopath or any sort of facility that could use an office space, and doctors' offices are employable and they do hire nurses and nurse practitioners, and there is legislation coming down about nurse practitioners. I believe it's from the federal side, and I'm hoping it comes here, that we're going to see NPAs expand in the province. And so I just don't want to axe those opportunities should they come up.
Okay. So I want to get a sense of where council's head's at as it relates to this, because obviously there's I'll call it a difference of opinion in terms of how the park is to be used. I do want to refer back to sort of when the park was originally conceptually designed, and and for myself, I know that I'd like to have that in sort of keeping of what the original intent. There was a lot of people who put a lot of effort into the visioning of this, and I don't necessarily want to sort of dismiss that, because there was a lot of effort put that way. I think Councillor McDonald does have a valid point in the sense that if it's not here, where is that? And that's something that may require some additional visioning, and maybe this is not the location, but it's obviously something that we need to look at. But I'm getting the impression that council wants to stay with the intent, the recommendation here, but we'll put that out that maybe what Councillor McDonald has suggested, we need to sort of look into that a little bit further. This may not be the right location, but we need to be sort of aware of that. So am I getting that from, is that generally where council's head, that would move forward on this recommendation, aware of sort of what Councillor McDonald has expressed here, and maybe look to staff to have some thoughts and ideas on that? So is that okay? Okay, so we have so all that to say that we have a mover, we have a seconder. Yes, Councillor Wilton.
Sorry, I'm confused because Councillor McDonald did put forward a friendly amendment. Like, are we including that, or are we not?
No, I don't think we're going to include the, no.
Yes, for us.
Yep. Yep. Okay. So based on so we had a first and we had a seconder. We had lots of comments and questions. So that thought from Councillor McDonald be passed on to the staff to look at that. But any further comments or questions as it relates to? Yes.
Apologies. Just for clarity, but there's no direction here for staff to review the current zoning regulations to see if there's opportunity to amend those, like the property that Councillor Evoy and yourself are discussing. Can we give direction at this time for that? Because I think that's a great idea.
So let's deal with the resolution here, and then we can go and follow that up. Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, so we have a mover, a seconder. Any further comments or questions?
Yes. Sorry, where were we with the shared spaces, like Councillor Jefferson suggested? Oh, not allowed? Oh, it is allowed. Okay, never mind.
Okay. Okay, so we have a mover, a seconder. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? So moved. Okay, now we'll open it up. Councillor Craddock, you were, let's hear what you had to say there.
Sorry, I just think what Councillor Evoy was suggesting is a good idea. And I kind of knew that we weren't giving direction to staff, but I don't know if this is an opportunity to, if there's, I know it's not an agenda item, but I think a reviewing of those zoning regulations is a great idea.
Oh, it's totally within scope. You've been discussing it. So I think with the resolution on the table, it was appropriate to deal with the resolution and not get sidetracked. So now would be appropriate if you wanted to give direction to staff on reviewing the MT zoning with a view to expand permitted uses to include medical office clinic. Does that capture it?
That's what I was going to say verbatim. So
okay. Yeah. If
a review for all uses, I would assume.
Okay. To expand permitted uses to include business.
It's just a general overview. Fine.
I would tend to want you to keep it general, just review the uses and not, as Councillor Craddock suggested, and not be specific.
So what I have, I mean, you can do it in the way of a resolution, or I can capture it in the minutes, that with consensus, council directs staff to review or ask staff to review the M2 zoning with a view to expand the permitted uses. Does that capture council's direction? Okay. We can just do it that way with consensus and put it in the minutes.
Let's move down to item 12.4, affordable residential unit development charge exemption agreements report from Dan, who's subbing in for Adam tonight. So.
Thank you, Mayor Waters. This report relates to development charge exemptions for affordable housing in Center Wellington. We've had a number of legislation from the province on this over the last couple of years. Honestly, it's sometimes hard to keep track. We had the More Homes Built Faster Act 2022, and we had the Affordable Homes and Good Jobs Act 2023 that both impacted development charges in some way or another. Even after those legislations were passed, we were still waiting on confirmation of what affordable housing is from the province and setting those rates, and we finally have that. So basically, there's a calculation that has to happen to deem units as affordable or not affordable, and if they meet the definition of affordable, they would be exempt from development charges. We've provided the definition within the report. To be honest, it is a little bit complicated and subjective, but it is legislation now, so staff will be implementing this. It's basically based on the 60th percentile of gross annual incomes of households in the municipality, also based on the income of the individuals in the household. And the province is setting rates. So we have a bulletin that is effective June 1st, 2024 that sets some of these rates, and it's a bulletin that actually gives rates for every municipality in Ontario. So for Center Wellington, for example, the affordable purchase price for either a detached house, semi-detached house, row townhouse, or condominium apartment is $427,600. So that gets fed into the calculation of affordability. Affordable rent, bachelor unit, $1,145 a month, one bedroom, $1,167 a month, two bedroom, $1,457 a month, and 3+ bedroom, $1,305 a month. So this bulletin, we understand, will be updated frequently by the ministry. We believe this one is in effect until May 31st, 2025, and presumably we'd receive a new bulletin with new rates at that time. So our staff would be using the bulletins plus I guess, household income numbers to determine whether units being created are affordable or not, and that would lead to a determination of whether or not they're DC exempt. And this applies to corporations that are for profit. Not-for-profit housing automatically gets an exemption of development charges. You don't have to go through this calculation. So with that, we are looking for delegated authority to enter into agreements to waive or exempt development charges on this to the Managing Director of Corporate Services and Treasurer. And we're looking to approve the actual 2 template agreements as part of this as well. So with that, opening the floor to questions.
Thank you, Dan. Comments, questions? Councillor Wilton.
Thank you, Mayor Waters, and through you. Thank you, Dan, for the report. It's great to see work being made on the affordable housing question. So that's great. I am kind of curious, just kind of the devil in the details of how it will actually work, though. So in terms of who will, 25 years is a long time. So if a developer comes and builds, say, a set of 20 stacked townhouses, 4 of which are going to be affordable, so they'll get the DC exemption on the 4. And then who will actually monitor that? And if they're condos where they could be sold again, how do you prevent it from being sold at fair market value later, like 8 years later? And then who would you go after, the developer or the person who sold it to collect the exemption rate, like the DC charge? So just curious.
Thank you, and through Mayor Waters, all very good questions that we're trying to sort out at this point. Sometimes we get legislation and the details have to be figured out after the fact. We would enter into a 25-year agreement with the owner at the time of the development. That agreement would be registered on title, which means any future owners would be subject to the same rules and requirements through the registration on title. We would have to implement some type of monitoring process, presumably at least annually, to make sure that the properties that get the affordable DC exemption maintain their affordability. And then at the issue of non-compliance, we go back to whoever the owner is at the time of the non-compliance, and they would owe the township development charges plus interest. So it is a very onerous task for staff to keep up on this.
Councillor McDonald and Councillor Evoy.
Through you, Mayor Waters, would the development that we just approved, 12.2, fall under this? Could it?
Through Mayor Waters, we would have to go through the calculation. We're not sure at this point what rates they're intending to use. I don't know if, Brett, you have anything to add to that?
No, I don't. I think the challenge is going to be that we're not going to find out until someone applies for the building permit. And part of the reason why we're looking for delegated authority is because the building department are under timelines as to how quickly they can issue a building permit. But, you know, to Dan's point, this is one of a number of things that the province has made changes to, I guess, theoretically make it easier to build affordable housing by exempting them from development charges. The other thing we're going to wrestle with is there's an exemption from parkland dedication and all those things that are new things that we have to figure out administratively how to deal with them. And this provision in the Development Charges Act, it's mandatory that if the rent is affordable, they're exempt. So, and it's mandatory that this 25-year agreement be entered into. So there's obviously a lot of questions. The affordable guidelines weren't given to us until earlier this year, even though the legislation was passed first in 2022. So we are, you know, not alone in municipalities that are struggling to adapt to how we're procedurally going to deal with these.
Councillor Evoy.
Thank you, sir. Through you. Some really great questions, really great discussion. I don't know how long we've been looking for a proper meaning of affordable housing. So I'm hopeful that this is a step in the right direction from above, as it were. So you started by saying it's very ambiguous, or you started by saying it's very subjective. I actually think it's more ambiguous than it is subjective, because it's pretty clear who or what gets to be considered affordable. But my concerns go beyond that. They go to page 3 and 4, where if the safe number for a house to not receive affordable funding status for that homeowner or person to buy, we look at a house income of, say, $100,000 being the magic number. But have we taken into account the fact that that $100,000 might have to support a very large family that may include several people who are infirm? So that changes the value of that $100,000 for that renter and whether or not they would actually qualify as being someone that could enter into an affordable housing agreement. So I see lots of, although the words are not are not subjective. I think the whole system is somewhat ambiguous. And to Councillor Wilton's point, I think we're going to have a whole section of our staff and team focused on this, on who, how, where, and what gets access to this affordable funding or housing.
And through Mayor Waters, we completely agree with you. The subjectivity in my mind was the calculations of the variables itself within the formula. And unfortunately, yeah, there are variations of really how you determine household income, but we're stuck with this one formula set by the province. So it's something we have to follow.
Any further comments or questions as it relates to, yes, Councillor Adams.
Thank you, through. Just a couple of clarifying. I believe the intention would be to report back annually on any signed agreements. Is that correct?
Through Mayor Waters, yes. Through our delegation of authority bylaw, we would report back to council annually.
Okay. And then you spoke about, you spoke about the onerous the task of of staff there. Do you see this working within current staffing that we have currently with in the upcoming year? And then the second part of that has been, are we looking at this to attract developers, or has staff been approached already by developers that may have some interest in this?
I think the challenge is the province has just created this regulation with a rent that if the rent's below it, it's affordable and they're exempt. So it's a new thing for us. We don't survey rents in Center Wellington. We don't do that. Even CMHC doesn't do a proper rental survey of small communities anymore. So, how are we going to do this is something that we'll have to figure out. I'm sure between Dan and Adam and I, we have ideas. I can't say, to me, the rents are pretty low, so I don't think we're going to see very many of these. If it'll only be, I think, a real burden if we get a whole bunch of them. The playing field is level because this applies province-wide, where every municipality's got this affordable number. So if the development or if a rental housing provider wants to try to meet the affordable rent, I'm not sure that it's an attraction, that we're any more attractive than any other place. But we'll have to see how many of these we get.
Further comments, questions? Councillor Wilton?
Yeah, just a comment that overall, I understand the details are kind of tricky to figure out, but overall, though, it's still a positive thing because it does provide a tool for developers or builders who want to provide some affordable housing, and it provides a template, obviously, to work with a developer who might have an idea about bringing forward a mix of affordable housing into our community. So, yeah, I'm sure there's going to be little kinks along the way to work out in terms of the details, but overall, I think it's great that you guys have put forward these templates, and I appreciate that.
Through Mayor Waters, yeah, thank you. And from a staff perspective, we completely agree. The intent here of making affordable housing more affordable, staff are completely on board with. There's a lot of scrutiny on development charges right now, and they're a necessary cost of growth. But at the same time, if we can exempt affordable housing, then it makes a lot of sense.
Any other comments? Questions? Okay. Thank you, Dan. I'm going to read the recommendation that the Council of Township of Centre Wellington pass a bylaw to approve 2 template agreements and affordable residential unit development charge exemptions, and authorize the Managing Director of Corporate Services and Treasury to execute and make minor amendments to the agreements as required, and further that the Council of Township of Centre Wellington direct staff to update the delegated authority bylaw to include this provision. Do you have a mover for that? Councillor Evoy. Seconder on that, Councillor Wilton. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none. All those in favor? So moved. Okay, so now we're going to move down to bylaws, and we're just adjusting this.
You want to read them first?
Yeah, how do you want me to do it? Do you want me to do these? How do you want me to do it?
Well, normally you read
Yeah.
them and then we go, but if you don't want to read them, we can go directly to this.
Okay, so
This one includes everything but,
okay,
and this one includes the one with the conflict.
okay. Maybe I'll just read all the bylaws so we are all very clear on what they are, and then we'll get into the level of detail here. So, okay. Bylaws 2025-01, a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute an agreement between the corporation, Township of Centre Wellington, and the firefighters of Centre Wellington Volunteer Fire and Rescue Services, approved December 16, 2024. 2025-02, a bylaw to amend part lot control exemption bylaw 2019-01 to extend the time period specified for the expiration of bylaws Cutting Drive, Elora. Next, 2025-03, a bylaw to designate the lands at 6717 6th Line to be of cultural heritage value or interest. Next, 2025-04, a bylaw to designate the lands at 177 Chalmers Street to be of cultural heritage value or interest. Next, 2025-05, a bylaw to designate the lands at 250 Union Street East to be of cultural heritage value or interest. Next, 2025-06, a bylaw to designate the lands at 101 St. Andrew Street West to be a cultural heritage value or interest. Next, 2025-07, a bylaw to amend Township of Centre Wellington zoning bylaw 2009-045 as amended to change the zoning of certain lands M2 to M2 BP and EP Centre Wellington Business Park. Next, 2025-08, a bylaw to approve two template agreements for affordable residential unit development charge exemptions and authorize the managing director of corporate services and treasurer to execute amend the same. Next, 2025-09, a bylaw to amend to amend the Township of Centre Wellington zoning bylaw 2009-045 as amended to change the zoning of subject lands from R1C to R4 76 750 St. David Street, North Fergus. Next, 2025-10, a bylaw to authorize the mayor and clerk to execute a transfer payment agreement between the Corporation of the Township of Centre Wellington and Her Majesty the King in Right of Ontario as represented by the Office of the Fire Marshal. And then I'll read the recommendation that bylaws 2025-01 through 2025-08 and 2025-10 be read a first, second, and third time and passed, signed by the mayor, clerk, and corporate seal affixed. Do I have a mover for that? Yes. Councillor Adams, seconder, Councillor McDonald. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? So moved. Yeah. Okay. And the next, that bylaws, should I, that bylaws 2025-09 be read a first, second, and third time and passed, signed by the mayor and clerk and corporate seal affixed. Do I have a mover for that? Councillor Adams, seconder on that. Councillor Evoy. Any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? So moved. So we can bring back Councillor Wilton. Okay. Confirmatory bylaw. A bylaw 2025-11 to confirm the proceedings of council at its meeting held January 27th, 2025 be introduced the first, second, and third time and passed in open council. Do you have a mover on that? Councillor McDonald, seconder on that. Councillor Jefferson, any further comments or questions? Seeing none, all those in favor? So moved. And then our favorite one, do I have a mover on adjournment? Councillor Craddock, seconder on that. Councillor Adams, any further comments or questions? Seeing none? So passed. Okay, have a good night. Thanks for everyone. Thanks for all your participation. Oh.